Good afternoon. My name is Joel Gackle, and I am the Senior Director of Alumni Engagement at Augustana University. Thank you so much for joining us for our latest webinar. The impact of unexpected job transitions due to COVID is sobering. Today I saw now we're at over 40 million Americans have filed for first-time unemployment since March. And at Augustana, we want to continue to be a part of the conversation around how we can help those impacted in this uncertain time. Today, we're joined by three incredible panelists and one incredible co-host. Billy Strufert is joining me as co-host today. She serves as the Assistant Vice Provost of Student Success and Engagement here at Augie. And our webinar, Successfully Navigating Vocational Transitions, is unique today because we've asked Augie alumni to share from their own human resources perspective. First up, we have Ellen Ferry. When she was here, Eckhardt is a Senior Human Resource Business Partner at LifeTouch. She graduated from Augustana in 2015 with a double major in psychology and business communications. This summer, before her senior year, she secured an internship with LifeTouch, an industry-leading photography company known primarily for its services to schools. She joined LifeTouch full-time as a recruiter after graduation and now holds a position with the company as a Senior Human Resources Business Partner. LifeTouch was acquired by Shutterfly Inc. in January 2018. And she's enjoyed witnessing the strengths of each organization come together to benefit both customers and employees. Ellen lives in St. Paul with her husband, Andrew. Kristi Sorteberg Reierson graduated from Augie in 1982 with a degree in social work. She's a human resources advisor with Sanford Health. She brings 30 plus years of human resources experience in a variety of industries, primarily financial and medical, including long-term care. She's experienced supporting organizations during times of growth and acquisitions, and also during downturns, right sizing and restructures. She's a native of Minneapolis and has spent most of her professional career in Sioux Falls, where she's raised her three children, Maria, Mark, and Peter. She holds a master's degree in Indiana University in higher education and student affairs. And then finally, Richie Hutchinson is the people and culture manager and vice president at Great Western Bank in Sioux Falls. He leads a team of human resource professionals that help managers and employees across 9 states to grow and to achieve their goals. For the past 10 plus years, Richie has been helping senior leaders acquire talent, develop employee cultures, navigate the gray world of employee relations and corporate mergers and acquisitions. Richie graduated from Augustana in 2003, where he earned a degree in government and international affairs. When not at the bank, you can find him trying to not burn down the kitchen with a new Pinterest recipe and pretending to be an athlete or embarrassing his kids on social media. So thank you all for joining us today. Again, thank you so much. As we're going through challenges in our various industries, what are the top suggestions, maybe the top 3 suggestions you would share for those who have been recently laid off or furloughed?
Well, this is Kristi. I'm going to jump in, and I'm coming at the world from a couple of points of view. As one, I have been laid off in my own personal life, as well as kind of being on the HR side of sometimes making those tough business decisions. And when I think about it personally, is the most you can do to stay positive, to stay open to possibilities. You know, if you're being furloughed or laid off in this environment with 40 million people unemployed, you need to be open to anyone, anything, and everything. And if I think about my own career, I'm not doing the thing that I set out to do when I was first at Augustana College, and have changed careers a couple of different times. And the last thing I would say, not to hog the airwaves here, is to really work to manage your ego, because some of the opportunities I got were in smaller roles, you know, involved significant impacts to pay, changes in title, and you've got to figure out how to manage your ego and determine what is really important to you at the end of the day. And sometimes just getting your foot in a door, or, you know, navigating kind of a holding place, especially in this unprecedented time we're in, that could be the best thing you could do. And that it's difficult. I'm not saying that that's like an easy thing today, but as I look back on my life, I think sometimes people's egos get in the way of making decisions that could, you know, long-term make a difference.
Yeah, hi everybody, this is Richie. And just kind of to echo that, I think one of the one of the most important things you can do is to focus on yourself and your own personal growth and your own mental health. And so that way, you know, you're ready for changes that come up and new opportunities that come up. You know, don't take this opportunity to not stop learning. Go out online, learn a new skill, take some online classes, pick up a hobby, just do something to, you know, help yourself and to grow personally so that you're ready for a next opportunity that comes along.
Yeah, I would echo that. This is Ellen, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I could go into a long list of, you know, get on LinkedIn and work on your resume and all of those things, but I would say that before you take those actions, it's important to, you know, maybe mourn what was lost, and then get into the right mindset. I have a number of friends and family members who have been placed in a layoff or a furlough. And the first thing that I say to them, and that I would say to anybody on this call who is in that position, is don't internalize what has happened as somehow reflective of your value or your skills or abilities, and do what you can to, you know, as Kristi said, get into a positive mindset and recognize that this is one step in your career, and brighter days are coming. I don't think anybody makes excellent decisions from a place of fear or anxiety or being backed into a corner. So take the time you need to, like I said, maybe mourn what's past and begin looking ahead to a brighter future. Oh, Billy, I think you might be muted.
We are having some random sound issues. I'll jump in. How can applicants make a good first impression with human resources?
Yeah, this is Richie. You know, it's you know, we're people just like everybody else. So I don't think there's anything special about you know, that you need to do for the human resources side of it. But you know, a couple of things when you do get an opportunity to speak with a member of the HR team is be prepared. You know, be professional. You know the organization that you're either in or that you're trying to get in. Understand something about that. Understand yourself and you know, what you can bring to the table and how that would impact you know, a new organization. But you know, I don't think there's anything special about us. So it's just being able to you know, make a connection, build a relationship, and understanding who you are.
I think what's kind of interesting about HR being a candidate right now, it's hard to get to HR because most of us have online applications. And so the old days of being able to kind of knock on a door and build a relationship before you made an application. So I think that's hard, but once you get there, I agree with Richie. We're kind of like everybody else, and don't let this event, if you're experiencing a layoff right now or a furlough, define you. You have to really play off of what your experiences have been and what you brought to the table. And this is an event that's about a business environment, or in this case, a national environment. It has nothing to do likely with you as a person and the skill set that you have.
I think you two have covered it beautifully. I won't have anything to add.
Well, one of the things I think that happens right now, and you talked about, Ellen, is kind of sitting and mourning what you've lost. But I think bringing the emotional element into this, I think there's some anxiety with what it looks like. And so people have applied and they wonder, all right, what's happening? Do you think people should follow up either after the interview or even after the application to make sure that the application was received, or following the interview if anyone has additional questions?
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what Richie and Kristi would have to say on this one. As far as follow-up after an interview, I am partial to that good old-fashioned thank you note. However, I would encourage people to consider the type of organization that they're applying to. So for example, if you're applying with a really techie company that maybe a lot of other people work remotely and they're accustomed to doing a lot of communication through email, for example, following up an email would probably fit with that culture in that organization. Whereas a different company, if they've been around longer, most of their people report into an office maybe, maybe that physical thank you note is more appropriate there. So consider the type of organization you're applying for and what their communication channels are, and then maybe pursue a follow-up through those channels.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, you know, a lot of the way you respond to me is determined, you know, by the type of role that you're applying for. If you're applying for a sales role, the way that you treat and respond to me gives me an idea how you're going to treat, you know, my customers. And so, you know, if you come to an interview, if you still got questions in your follow-up on email, I think that's great. You know, sending out emails, you know, status checks, or, you know, connecting on LinkedIn and doing it through there. I think all those are good skills, because everything that we're doing in the interview process to me tells me what kind of candidate that you're going to be if you would end up getting the job. So just remember that. And, you know, I would ask though that, you know, the communication be professional. But you know, just remember that everything you're doing here tells me what you're going to be doing towards customers.
And I don't really have anything to add.
So how can people navigate in this era where it's just a reality, there's being downsizing, and so now people are inheriting new job titles or new roles or new expectations that maybe they hadn't sat in before. How do you help employees best navigate that?
This is Kristi. There might be feel like a canned answer, because for me it's so much about that, like that first question about, we all have a choice in our attitude, and during these times I've really tried to focus on being grateful, kind of grateful for it all. And in a time where coworkers are losing their job potentially or having hours cut, and if you're being asked to do something more, something different, how do you be grateful in that moment and view it as an opportunity to learn more? It may be more stressful because more is on your plate, but it's such an opportunity for you to build your war chest of tools and skills, and to be able to say later that I made a difference because I took on more. So it comes back to, I think, attitude and our egos and just our empathy for others during this kind of time where everybody rolls up their sleeves to do their part.
Yeah, I agree. You know, every time you're asked to do something, it's an opportunity to showcase yourself and your knowledge and your abilities. And being able to, you know, lead yourself or team members through new challenges is always a way to better yourself, further yourself, to market yourself. And so, you know, but from the employer side too, you know, you need to be honest. You know, if you have opportunities that you don't feel that you're best suited for, you know, you just need to say it. No one wants to be in a role that they are not effective in. No one wants to be in a role that they're not valued in. And so, you know, I'm looking for that two-way street too, and just being open and honest about, you know, about what's going on.
Yeah, for somebody who's moving into a new position, and I myself having occupied a couple of different roles so far in my career, my first order of business is to identify my resources and build relationships with people who I know can help me as I'm learning the ropes, right? So you know, if you're in a new position, I feel like you have to be alone and you have to come up with all the answers magically. right? Figure out who your resources are, figure out who your advocates are, find a mentor who's been in that role previously or has insight into that particular department, and invite them to coffee. You don't have to go alone.
I think one of the things we talked about is sometimes people seem to fall into a career in that maybe they had an internship or someone saw something in them. And so they began in a company and they moved and continue to move. And now they find themselves looking maybe for a career for the first time. How do you help job seekers assess a culture or work environment of an organization as they're now trying to figure out where they want to land?
So, as I think as part of all of our roles, developing and helping to foster culture is now more important than ever. And there's a couple things I think you can do just to really understand an organization. Everything is online now. I can go out, if I'm looking at a company, I can go out, I can see their information online. I can go to Twitter, I can go to Facebook, I can go to Instagram, I can find out what they're posting. I can find out what they feel is important. I can go to LinkedIn. I can see the type of people that they have working with them, see if I've worked with anyone before. I can call contacts. I can network and try and just really understand, the people and the organization that I'm going to work with. Because I think, for me, the organization and the type of organization I work for is more important than what I do. I never want to go out to, a restaurant and have to mumble under my breath of where I work, or hide, my corporate logo gear, because it's embarrassing. So, we can do the research. We can, the world is getting smaller, especially for the larger companies. We can usually find people who have worked there. The Augie alumni, you can usually see who went to school there. You can find someone who knows someone to help you, give you the inside scoop. So just do your own research.
I would say too that if you're invited to an interview, come with questions, right? I think a lot of people go into an interview and they're like, this company is determining if I'm a good fit. It goes both ways, right? You're determining if this particular organization will be a good fit for you. So ask your interviewer about, a day in the life, right? Ask them what they believe their culture is like, and they'll be happy to share with you, I'm sure, as would the HR representative that you're working with.
Yeah, well said by my peers here, and I agree with talk to as many current employees or leaders as you can to get their perspective. One person's view is one person's view, but you start to get a collective sense of a culture by the values and kind of what people are saying or not saying.
I think one of the challenges sometimes for job seekers is they look at a job title and expectations, and they ask for a certain amount of years of service or an experience. How do you help those who feel like they've done something similar but a completely different industry really talk about and market their transferable skills?
One thing that I found helpful in a variety of contexts, it's an exercise that a mentor of mine recommended I go through when I was considering a career transition, and that is making a chart with a column for things that kind of take away your energy, and then things that give you energy. So it's not maybe, you can insert specific tasks, but also just in general, what gives you life in your job, right? Is it working with people? Is it working with numbers? I think there are a lot of different things that could go in each column. But having done that exercise, I was able to look and say, okay, well, here are the general skills that fit with the things that give me energy. And the fact of the matter is those will transfer to a variety of different roles, right? So instead of saying, I'm really good with managing XYZ process, you can say, I'm exceptional when it comes to communication, and that can be marketed more broadly. So that exercise, I think, is also good because you can compare potential opportunities against this grid, right? Like reading a job description You can kind of butt it up against this chart and say, would this give me energy in life on a day-to-day basis? Every job is going to have things that we like and don't like, right? But looking generally at what gives you energy, I think helps you identify your marketable skills and what would be a good fit for you.
I like that, Ellen.
It was a great piece of advice that, like I said, a mentor gave me.
Right. Where my head went a little bit is, you know, if you think about that traditional resume, which is usually your chronology of where you've been, but that the other type, and Ellen's idea sort of piggybacks on this, is that more skill-focused resume. So you're kind of, again, focusing on those skills that, or even tasks or processes that transcend different companies or industries or roles. And so it's another way to kind of capture that. And I, like I said, I really like that exercise.
Yeah, we like to, you know, I like to focus on, you know, on competencies, right? So if, you know, if I'm asking for, you know, X number of years of business to business sales, for example, well, these are the things that make you successful in business to business sales, right? Do you have some of those that can translate, you know, where, you know, it doesn't have to necessarily be in banking, which is my industry, you know, but, you know, what I do here, these are the skills that it takes that would translate into what you're asking.
What are some words of encouragement or advice you have? Again, now 40 million have filed for first-time unemployment. You sit on the other end where you receive resumes and you're in interviews. What are some words of encouragement you have for those out there trying to find their next spot?
Well, you know, on my side, it's, you know, understanding that you're not alone. First off, you know, unfortunately, like you said, there are a lot of people out there, but, you know, so what can set you apart? It's just, it's don't give up. You know, continue to grow, continue to work on you personally, do your research, and then just don't stop. You know, even if, you know, once we do get into an organization, you know, that's not the end. You know, we're still having to grow, we're still having to move ourselves forward. And the same goes for applicants. You know, you continue to grow, you continue to learn, you continue to work on yourself, and good things will happen.
This may be a little bit of a plug for healthcare, but healthcare is hiring. Healthcare hasn't stopped. Healthcare is probably one of our greatest needs. So maybe this is a chance for a career reset. I'm sure Augustana would love to have people coming back to school during this period of time, because I can't find a job and I'm going to, you know, pursue something that maybe brings me more passion or joy. And so don't be afraid to, you know, really try something new. This might be your window. I always think about where the silver linings are in these kinds of downturns or turns. And, you know, if you have a personal impact, you kind of never know where you're going to come out on the other side. So take a risk.
Yeah, I would say be bold. It's probably tempting to say, oh, well, you know, unemployment is at what, 14%. There's all sorts of people looking for jobs. There are no jobs. You know, obviously try to be in a positive mindset. And then when I say be bold, it means reach out to people on LinkedIn. It means, you know, connect with a fellow alumni or the officer who supports with job placement. Ask questions, build connections. Now is not the time to you know, sit quietly and wait for something to come your way. Actively pursue new opportunities, and like Kristi said, probably be surprised what comes your way.
A question came in that kind of alludes to what you were talking about, Kristi, where human resources used to be accessible, and now some people are concerned that there's screening tools, that there's bots, that it's all about keywords. How do you recommend an applicant best assure that their application can land with the right person?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I think that is a $1 million question and concern. And I'd love to hear what Richie and Ellen say, because I think that's a frustration I've heard from candidates for a long time. I apply, and even when I've been in the employment market, which is even in the last 10 years, you apply and you don't hear anything. And it's hard. How do you get in, and how do you stand out from everybody else? I don't know if I have the answer to that. I think it is really promoting those transferable skills for sure.
I would say that a lot of applicants, having worked in recruiting career, the thing now are applicant tracking systems. So these are sophisticated pieces of software that enable human resources recruiters to organize and sort through resumes, in high volume. And a lot of these systems have features that pre-scan a resume for keywords. And one way that you can kind of help get through that screening is to ensure that your resume is tailored for the particular job you're applying for. So go to the job posting, and if it's calling for, X, Y, and Z skills, make sure that those words, right, are included in your resume that you're uploading. And I would say to emphasize again that networking is really important. I think a large number of individuals find new opportunities through mutual connections. So if you're going to put your energy into your job search, go about it in a smart way. You should certainly be applying when you see a post online, but spend an equal amount of time nurturing your network and see who you can get connected with organically.
Yeah, and I would really agree with that. I think because of the applicant tracking systems and just because of the volume of resumes you get, I don't think there's anything anymore of just a standard resume. So I have my resume, it reads like this, and I can send it off to 20 different organizations, and it's going to have an impact in any of them. Every resume that you submit should be personalized to the organization that you're applying for. Take the time to show, whoever gets to read it that, you really want this, that you're going to take the time to put some effort into it. And then, it's also work the network, work your network, work LinkedIn, work wherever you have to go, so that someone, if you did get in the system, if it was pushed by, that someone can see what you're about and go back and take a second look. Because I see both extremes. One where the applicant tracking systems are tracking too much, and other sides where HR is not seeing them, managers are. And managers are calling HR people saying, hey, I want to talk to this person. Hey, I want to do this, because they saw it on LinkedIn, or they got a good email from an applicant and they want to check it out. So work the network.
I want to piggyback on something Richie said, which was don't underestimate the value of your people connections. One time this past year, I went back and looked at my career, and every job I got except for one was through a people connection. Now, I'm not saying those people got me the job, because I had to get it on my own merit, but there was some personal connection, and I think a behind the scenes advocating that took place. And even in my most recent job, I was going to be passed over or dismissed because they put me in that bucket of being overqualified. As I told you, my career kind of peaked like 15 years ago, and I've been taking smaller, lesser roles for a variety of reasons. And I was going to be passed over, and I made a connection with a person who said, I think you really need to rethink that. Just go talk to her. You need to ask her why she's applying for this job, even though on paper it looks like she's overqualified. And now it's been 6 years since I've been at the Good Sam Sanford organization. So as much as we don't like that phrase, it's who you know, sometimes it's about who you know and those connections that can get you in the door, especially during this time when I envision HR departments are being flooded with applications.
Well, you've all given great advice on the positive side. What about some things you tell people definitely don't do this, or something that you've seen in people applying for jobs, or pet peeves that maybe you see on the HR side that you're like, all right, let's bury that resume? Are there things that turn off every employer with potential employees?
Yes. You know, if you think about, you know, if we're hiring for, you know, a mid-level to lower role, and we're getting hundreds of applicants and resumes that come in, you want to make sure that you make a good first impression. Simple ones like have a professional email address. I don't really like emailing Princess Zaza at, you know, whatever.com. It's really kind of frustrating. You know, having, you know, grammatical errors, spelling, punctuation, or just a pretty obvious sense that, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of effort put into a resume, or put into, you know, when you're coming to see me. Also, when you get into people, like Ellen said earlier, make sure that you know about the organization. Make sure you have some questions. If I wanted to listen to myself talk for 45 minutes, I wouldn't have invited you to come in for that. So, you know, being prepared, being professional, that's going to help.
Well said.
Yeah, I would add, I really echo, I think, what Richie has said about being professional in your communications. I think one thing that I often see are emails that read more like a text message if we're trying to set up an interview, for example. If I take the time to write an email that says, hey, yeah, we're so excited that you applied, I'd love to visit with you, when can you be available? And you respond and say, yes, I'm available. It's kind of like, okay, you didn't answer my question and I don't know when you're available. Are you serious about this opportunity? So I think it's using common sense, and what Richie said at the beginning, you know, we're people too. So just communicate professionally, be yourself, prepare for the interview, have good questions so that you can assess a mutual fit, and you'll be fine.
All right, one final question. You are a unique position in that you're the gatekeeper a lot of times to getting in. And Ellen, you've already mentioned a mentor gave you some great advice. What's the best piece of advice you received in your life about career development and career growth?
So I'm an accidental HR person. I didn't go to school for it. I never really wanted to be in it. You know, saw an opportunity once that I thought maybe I would be good at, and I really run with it from there. But I think the best piece of advice that I got, it was before I got into HR, was that, you know, you are going to be your best advocate. And so what you're doing, the way that you, you know, portray yourself to your organization and to other organizations, you know, no one is going to be higher on you than you. So, and no one's going to have more control over that. So, you know, you go out there, you continue to learn, always continue to grow, and be open, like Kristi said, to other avenues.
I also am an accidental HR person, so that's interesting. I wanted my career, I don't know if Billy and Joel know this, but I wanted to be the Dean of Students at Augustana College, and I went into an HR job just to pass some time, and 35 years went by. And I'm glad I didn't hold out, because I think your previous Dean of Students was there for about those same 35 years. So anyway, so it's kind of brings me back to my own advice, which is really be open to change. And I was open to possibilities. I kept getting tasked and asked to do different things. And I kept saying, well, I don't think I can do that, but okay, I'll try. And you know, my career blossomed in HR, and it's been a really fulfilling career. And I've been open to other industries. And so I think it's be yourself, but just be open, don't box yourself. And I think when I look back at being a college student and choosing to major in social work, I didn't ever practice a day of social work. But I took all of that learning and I kind of identified those transferable skills that made sense in a business environment and kept applying it. And I mean, comes back to maybe an Augustana commercial of just, that's what makes that liberal arts education so great, because I learned how to weather those ups and downs and the storms like we're going through right now. And so I hope for all of you that are in that boat, you do the same.
I would say the same thing. I actually knew I wanted to go into HR, and here I am. But what Augustana did for me is taught me how to learn and be adaptable. A really good piece of advice that I've received from another mentor. I asked her, I said, how do you know when you're ready for something new, or you're ready for a change, it's time for a change? And she said, well, if you stop learning and growing. So as you think about future opportunities, are they gonna allow you to grow? And if they are, it's probably a good thing, right? So be interested in learning something new every day, and you'll probably find a lot of satisfaction in any position.
Well, thank you, Ellen and Richie and Kristi, and thank you, Billy. We did have some technical issues, but I think, if anything, I want this webinar to demonstrate that the Augustana community is here for you, that Augustana alumni want to see you succeed, whether you are just looking for your first job or you find yourself in a transition. Billy and I mentioned in our last webinar, the Office of Student Success is here to help you succeed even as alums. And so there is no expectation that you understand how to write a resume well if it's not a muscle that you regularly use. So please do reach out. We want you to be prepared so that you can launch in having practiced an interview, having have your resume looked over. We want to be here for you. Again, this is the second of at least a 4-part series that we're doing only on careers. Beyond that, we're extending into all avenues of life. And so we look forward to connecting with you even more after this. But thank you so much. We are so thankful for all of you joining us. Ellen, Richie, Kristi, Billy, thank you so much.